Vikings did not come to England quietly. They came like a storm, burning, killing, and crushing everything in their path. For generations, they had dominated battlefields across Europe. No army could stop them. No king could hold against them. Their raids were fast, their attacks brutal, and their warriors fearless. But in 1066, this was no longer a raid. This was something bigger. This was an invasion. And at its center stood one of the most feared warriors in history, Harald Hardrada. A king who had spent his entire life in war. A man who believed England would be his final conquest. With thousands of hardened Viking warriors behind him, Harold crossed the sea and landed in northern England. His army moved fast, crushing local resistance before it could even form. Villages fell without a fight, and English forces were overwhelmed again and again. It felt like history repeating itself, the Vikings unstoppable once more. Victory came quickly, and with every step forward, their confidence grew stronger. They had done this before. They would do it again. England, like so many others, would fall. But far to the south, a different kind of king was preparing to fight. Harold Godwinson was not a legend like Harold. He was not feared across continents. But he was smart, and more importantly, he was fast. The moment he learned about the invasion, he made a decision that shocked everyone. Instead of waiting, instead of gathering strength slowly, he moved immediately. His army began a forced march north, relentless, exhausting, and faster than anyone thought possible. Day and night, they moved without stopping, at covering distances no army should survive. It was a gamble, a risk. But if it worked, it would catch the Vikings completely off guard. And that's exactly what happened. At Stamford Bridge, the Viking army was not ready for war. They believed they had time. Many had removed their armor. Some were resting. Others were scattered, unprepared for a sudden attack. They had just won a battle days earlier and expected no immediate threat. Their guard was down. Their confidence had made them careless. And then, the English army appeared. Not far away, not hours away, right there. The shock hit instantly. Viking warriors rushed to grab weapons, shouting orders, trying to form lines. Chaos spread through their camp. This was not how battles were supposed to begin. They were not ready. They were exposed. But retreat was not an option. Oh, not for them. Not for Vikings. As the English army advanced toward the narrow bridge that stood between them and the Viking forces, something unexpected happened. A single Viking warrior stepped forward, alone. No shield wall, no support. Just one man standing in the path of an entire army. He planted himself on the bridge and refused to move. The English soldiers charged, expecting to overwhelm him in seconds. But they were wrong. Swing after swing, the Viking cut them down. The narrow bridge worked in his favor. Only a few men could reach him at a time, and each one fell before they could get close. Blood stained the wood beneath his feet as bodies piled up around him. The advance slowed, then stopped. What should have been a quick crossing turned into a deadly standstill. One man holding back an army. Time stretched. As the English pushed harder, sending more soldiers forward, but it made no difference. He fought without hesitation, without fear, as if he knew this moment would define everything. And behind him, the Viking army was changing. The chaos was turning into order. Warriors were forming lines. Shields were locking together. Weapons were raised. Because they understood the truth. This was no longer an invasion. This was a battle they might not survive. And when that lone warrior finally fell, the bridge would no longer protect them. It would become the gateway to their destruction. The moment the lone Viking fell, everything changed. The bridge was no longer a shield. It was an open path. And the English army did not hesitate. They surged forward, crossing into the Viking side with force and fury. What had been delayed was now unstoppable. The battle had begun. The Vikings were ready, but not fully. Many still lacked armor. Their formation was incomplete, but they did what they had always done best. They stood and fought, shields locked, weapons raised. As the English army crashed into them, the sound of steel filled the air. Swords struck shields, axes tore through armor, and within seconds, the battlefield exploded into chaos. This was no longer strategy. This was survival. At the center of it all stood Harald Hardrada. Even at his age, he fought like a man who had never known defeat. Where he moved forward with his warriors, leading from the front, striking with precision and power. Around him, Vikings fought with a fury that only comes when there is nothing left to lose. They knew the truth. There would be no escape, no second chance, only this moment. For a time, they held. The English pushed hard, trying to break through, but the Viking line refused to collapse. Blow after blow. They absorbed the attack, striking back with brutal force. Bodies fell on both sides. The ground turned red beneath their feet. It was not clean. It was not controlled. It was raw, violent, and relentless. But then, everything shifted. In the middle of the battle, Harald Hardrada was struck. An arrow. It hit him in the throat. There was no dramatic moment, no final speech, just a single strike, and the Viking king fell. The man who had come to conquer England was gone, and with him, something inside the Viking army broke. For a brief moment, there was hesitation, confusion. The unstoppable force that had crossed the sea now stood without its leader. But they did not run. Not yet. Instead, they fought harder, louder, angrier, as if trying to prove that even without their king, they were still Vikings. But the English army saw the truth, and they pressed harder. Wave after wave, they attacked, forcing the Vikings back step by step. The line that had once held strong was now weakening. Fatigue was setting in. Wounds were slowing them down. And numbers were against them. Then came the final collapse. The Viking formation broke. Once that happened, the battle turned into something else entirely. No more lines, no more structure. Just scattered groups fighting desperately, surrounded on all sides. Some tried to hold their ground. Others were cut down where they stood. The battlefield became a slaughter. Reinforcements arrived late, more Vikings rushing into the fight. But it was already over. They ran into chaos, into death, into a battle that could no longer be won. One by one, they fell. By the time the fighting ended, the Viking army had been destroyed. What had started as a powerful invasion had become a complete annihilation. The survivors were few. The cost, unimaginable. And with that, something greater ended. The Viking Age. For generations, they had ruled through fear. Their ships had carried them across the world. Their warriors had shaped history through blood and battle. But here, at Stamford Bridge, it ended. Not slowly, not quietly, but in fire, steel, and death. The Vikings had come to conquer. Instead, they were wiped out, and the world would never fear them the same way again.